Hello everyone, my name is Daffa Ramadhan. Today, in this section, I would like to explain you about the phonemes and the concept of significant differences in sounds. 1. Phones as units of sound. A phone is the basic unit of sound used in speech and can be described based on its articulatory, auditory, and acoustic characteristic. A phone is a physical sound that can be distinguished mentally from other sounds in the continuous stream of speech. For instance, p is a phone that can be classified as bilabial,
A stop, and aspirated.
phones are the building blocks of spoken language, but they don't necessarily determine meaning by themselves. They can be categorized based on how they are produced, heard, or analyzed acoustically. 2. Phonemes and the abstract units of sound. A phoneme is a more abstract unit than a phone. Phonemes exist in the minds of speakers and listeners and represent how people perceive sounds, not how the sounds are physically produced. Phonemes is a mental construct that groups together a set of words perceived as the same sound. In English, the sound p can be pronounced into slightly different as an aspirate sound p or as an aspirate sound p.
Aspirated.
This version of p is produced with a burst of air. You can feel it if you place your hand in front of your mouth when saying words like pit. In this case, the p is followed by a noticeable puff of air. Next,
Unaspirated.
p. In words like spit, the p is pronounced without that puff of air. It's still a p sound, but with less of forceful release of air. Despite these physical differences in how the sound is produced, English speakers treat them as the same phoneme, p. English speakers treat them as the same phoneme, p. This means that whether the p is
Aspirated or unaspirated.
it doesn't change the meaning of the word. For example, pit and spit have different meanings, but not because one p is aspirate and the other is.
Unaspirated.
The difference in meaning comes from the rest of the sounds in the word. Since the variation between
Aspirated and unaspirated.
p doesn't change the meaning of words, these two sounds are considered allophones different pronunciation of the same phoneme. English speakers intuitively understand both as representing the same sound category. 3. Allophones and predictable sound variation. The variation in the realization of a phoneme is called an allophone. Allophones are different versions of the same phoneme that occur depending on their position in a word or surrounding sounds. Allophones are predictable based on linguistic rules that govern how sounds are produced in different contexts. These variations don't create different words or meaning. They are just different forms of the same phoneme. 4. Significant differences in sounds. In linguistic, a significant difference in sound means that replacing one sound with another result in a change in meaning. This is how phonemes function within a language. They are the sounds that, when substituted, this is how phonemes function within a language. They are the sounds that, when substituted, create contrasting words. For example, in English, if you replace the p sound in pit with the b sound, you get bit, a word with a completely different meaning. So therefore, p and b are different phonemes in English because the substitution leads to a change in meaning. 5. The role of phonemes in language. Phonemes are perceived units of language. Speakers and listeners understand that certain sounds are grouped together as one phoneme, even if they differ slightly. In English, the p and p sounds are considered the same phoneme, p. But in language like Hindi, are different phonemes because they change the meaning of words.
Aspirated
6.
and unaspirated
Phonemes
sound.
in non-speech language. Phonemes don't only apply to spoken language. They can also exist in sign language, like American Sign Language or ASL, where hand shapes and movement function like phonemes to signal differences in meaning. So, the conclusion, phonemes are abstract mental units that help speakers differentiate between words based on sounds. Allophones are variations of a phoneme that don't alter meaning, while phonemes themselves are responsible for meaning contrast when substituted. A significant difference in sounds means that changing one phoneme to another creates a new word with a different meaning. Different language may classify sound variation differently. What is a mere allophone in one language could be a distinct phoneme in another. As seen in the comparison between English and Hindi, understanding this distinction is essential for comprehending how sound systems work across language.
Hello, my name is Sabrina Dini Hariyanti. My last digit number is 19. Okay, so here I want to present about phonetics and phonemics. Armed with a phonetics alphabet to help organize information on sound, linguists attempt to describe all the speech sound of a previously unstudied language. Because linguists do not yet know which sounds are significant or distinctive. In linguistic, the term distinctive refers to unit that contrast, that is change meaning when substituted for each other. They attempt to record every slight detail. Linguists at this point are doing a phonetic analysis. A phonetic analysis of a heretofore unstudied language is an outside view, sometimes called an ethic view or approach. In a sense, the linguist is sitting on a hill, looking down at the speech community and describing a language without reference to the speaker's sound, subconscious concept of what is significant or distinctive. A phonetic approach is a first step. One goal of the linguist is to determine what categories of sound are significant to native speakers. Once the raw data are collected, the linguist can begin to phonemic study. The researchers attempt to discover the shared understanding of phonology that native speakers possess. The linguist is now taking an insight or emic. Emic refers to categories and concepts that have meaning to the people being studied. An emic study attempts to discover what things have meaning to the people being studied. Approach and attempting to derive the speaker's linguistic competence. The reason one cannot proceed directly to the phonemic level of analysis is that the native speaker's competence is mostly subconscious. Therefore, the investigator cannot just ask a speaker to report on what categories are significant and what the rules to combine categories are. These principles must be discovered. One way to do this is to have knowledge of all the possible categories and then to discover regularities in the data. For instance, at the phonetic level, a non-English speaking linguist with no previous knowledge of English might discover two p tones, p and v. The linguist would have been compiling written text of the native speaker's utterance, stretches of speech between two periods of silence or potential silence. These yet to be organized collections of data gathered in the field is called a corpus.
Hi, my name is Hakim Firmansyah, and in this section, I will explain about minimal pairs and free variation. So these concepts help linguists understand how sound function in language and how they contribute to meaning. Let's talk about minimal pairs first. Minimal pairs are two words in a language that differ by only one phonetic element, such as a sound, and have distinct meanings. For example, cat and pet. Both words have three sound segments, differing only in their initial consonant, and they convey different meanings. For the purpose, minimal pairs help identify sounds are phonemically distinct within a language. They show where a single sound can alter the meaning of a word. And next is free variation. In free variation, two sounds or allophone can occur in the same phonetic environment. without changing the meaning of a word. For example, the word tomato can be pronounced as tomato or tomato in different dialects, but the meaning remains the same. This shows how two sounds may alternate freely without affecting the semantic content of the word. Other example is hat, cap and cap. Two pronounced slightly differently. They don't change the core meaning in free variation context. So for the conclusion, minimal pairs are crucial for identifying phonemic distinction in a language, and free variation demonstrates that not all sound change lead to a change in the meaning. These tools help linguists decode how sounds operate in various languages, particularly when studying native speaker competence. That's all from me. Thank you for the attention. See ya.
Hello, my name is Mutya Yuliani Anuar and my live study number is 023. I'm gonna explain about naming deafness. But before that, we should know about allophones and how allophones with phonemes work together. So, what is allophones? Allophones is a variant of a phonemes that don't change the meaning of a words. For example, the reason the P sound is named P and not P or P is because P is the most common variant or allophone. It occurs more often than either aspirated P or glottalized P. For an English speaker, it's easy to understand the relationship between P, P, and P because they all share the base sound P, but allophones of the same phoneme can have slight differences, though they still belong to the same family of sound. In English, the P sound is aspirated at the beginning of word like pet. This puff of air after the sound is called aspiration, marked by a superscript H, making it P. However, if you don't aspirate P like in the word spot or leave it unreleased as in tap, it doesn't create a new word. In English, P and non-aspirated P are not separate phonemes. Phonemes are sounds that change meaning, while allophones don't. For example, in English, T and D are different phonemes because they contrast meaning, like in tap and dap. In English, the distribution of allophones is predictable. P is aspirated or not based on its position in a word. To sum up, phonemes are the mental reality of a sound, while allophones are its physical variants. The way these variants are used differ from language to language, forming part of phonology system that each language follows. Now let's move on to broad and narrow transcription. But before that, we should know about phonetic transcription. So, what is phonetic transcription? Phonetic transcription is the visual representation of speech sound. It allows us to convert the sound of a spoken language into a written symbol that captures the specific sound produced by speakers. Individual speech sounds such as vowel, consonant, and even subtle variation in pronunciation can be precisely represented using phonetic symbols. In general, there are two types of phonetic transcription, broad transcription and narrow transcription. Broad transcription focuses on transcribing the general pronunciation of words, while narrow transcription takes into account specific phonetic variation, accents, and contextual influences on pronunciation. Conventionally, slashes enclose the phonemic transcription, K, square brackets enclose the phonetic transcription, K. Now, we will have a closer look at both types of transcription. Broad transcription. As I said before, broad transcription focuses on capturing the general pronunciation of words. In broad transcription, only the units that represent differences in meaning are represented. For example, pin, pen, pen. It aims to represent speech sound at the phoneme level, which are the smallest meaningful units of sound in a language. Broad transcription provides a simplified overview of pronunciation, ignoring minor variation or regional accent. In broad transcription, sounds are symbolized only on the basis of their linguistic function in a language, without going into detail without the physical features of an individual sound. In broad transcription, phonemes are represented by specific sound, such as P for the P sound in pet or S for the S sound in seed. These symbols are enclosed in slashes to indicate that they are represented phonemes rather than individual letters. Broad transcription allows us to analyze the underlying structure of words and study phonological patterns in a language. And now let's talk about narrow transcription. Narrow transcription provides a more detailed representation of speech sound, regardless of their function in a language. Unlike broad transcription, narrow transcription takes into account specific phonetic variation, accents, and contextual influences on pronunciation. In a phonetic transcription, the aim is not to judge the functional meaning of sound in the context of some language, but to identify the sound as such phonetic variation. It provides an accurate representation of how individual speakers produce sound in a real-life situation. Now, let's talk about the differences between broad and narrow transcription. The main differences between broad and narrow transcriptions are in the level of detail and specificity. Broad transcription focuses on the underlying phonemes of a language, providing a general representation of pronunciation. Narrow transcription, on the other hand, provides a more detailed analysis of individual sound and pronunciation nuances, focusing on the complex phonetic variation and contextual influences. In conclusion, understanding phonetic transcription and its types, broad and narrow, allow us to explore the finer points of pronunciation and language sound. By using phonetic transcription, we can expand our linguistic knowledge and communicate more effectively in various contexts.
Alright, the next material is about comparative example. To better understand the difference between phonetic and the phonemic aspects, we can compare one language with another. For example, the sound t, the, and ch in English and Russian. Look at the picture. The first one is t, t. It is alveolar. You create alveolar consonant when you raise your tongue to the alveolar ridge to block airflow. For example, in word top. And the second one is the. It is dental. Dental consonant made by placing the tongue against the upper teeth. For example, in word this. And the third one is ch. It is palatal. Palatal sounds are consonant sounds made by raising the front of the tongue against the hard plate, which is located behind the gums.
For example, the word chips. Chips. Okay, in English, these three sounds are allophones of the phoneme t. T. But in Russian, it's significantly different. For example, the word mat differs in meaning from the word much. These words form a minimal pair in Russian. They contrast. This difference, same as the difference between the initial sounds in cat and pet to the English speakers. A series of sounds might be allophonic in one language and phonemic in another. Same as our example, in English, t and ch do not contrast, and they are allophones of phoneme t. But in Russian, t and ch do contrast, and therefore two different phonemes, the t and ch. Okay, that's all from our group. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.